Hey all, I'm going to be working on the rust that I found in the floor of the back of the van when I was doing the seat install. I need to find it all, cut it out, and weld in some patches and then seal those up. So let's get started. So this is some of the rust that I'm talking about. This area is definitely the worst. There's rust all up in through here, and then here kicks out a little, and then obviously kicks out way out over here. This row here is where the frame rail is spot welded from the underside. In fact, these are the spot welds between these rust bubbles. So it's clear what it is the tire kicked up crud. It somehow got between those two panels and then just formed little pockets of rust that grew and grew until, in the case of this one, it burst through. And then this, I'm sure, was related to that. So this whole area is going to have to get cut out and fixed. And then there's another one here, same deal. There is, this marker was useless for this idea, but there's this here that needs to be cut out and welded. I did put a patch in from underneath here temporarily, but that's gonna have to come out. I'm gonna have to do a proper job of fixing it. And then over on the other side, I've got this here. That's another spot that needs to be handled. And then I have rust here. It's the big chunky boy. And then I have some here. And then I think that will take care of all of the floor rust. So yeah, what I'm going to do now is cut each of these sections out and drill out the spot welds so that I can get a good idea of what the frame rail section looks like. And then, assuming the frame rail sections don't need any repair themselves, which I doubt they will, but I need to check, I'm gonna get as much of the surface rust off as I can and then treat these, and then that's going to be it for tonight, so that tomorrow I can come out and start cutting and fitting patches. Alright, and I'm done cutting those all out. So basically I did the same, I'm not going to show you every single one, but the same idea for all of them, which is cut beyond the rail on either side and then cut across, and then where there were spot welds, drilled those out. Put the light down. On all of them I had, put the light where my hand's not in the way. On all of them I had the same issue, which is trying to cut inside this valley. Even my smaller disc on my pneumatic cutting thing was too wide, so in a lot of cases I sliced further than I should have. I sliced here and here, so I'm gonna have to do a lot of going in and cleaning those and welding those back up as well. And I think I'm okay. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 little tiny patches, one fairly simple square patch in the wheel well there, and then this more complicated. This one's going to be at least 2 if not 3 sections, because I need to weld up this main part here, and then I'm going to need to form something over here that has the rise up, and over here it's got a more complicated shape to make up the corner of the floor. So I think what I'm going to do is start in on cleaning all these little edges up next, and then decide from there if I feel like cutting patches or not. All right, day 2. So yesterday I went through and wire wheeled and cleaned these up and then sprayed them with phosphoric acid so that they could do its thing. As you can see, there's now a bunch of nice silver where the rust has been removed and those darker areas where the rust has been converted. So what the next step is going to be to make all the patches for these holes so that I can then prep this bit of metal and get the new ones welded on. So what I did was went over all of the holes on there with a dirty finger and a piece of paper, which gives you a reasonable patch template. So I'm going to cut all of these out. I numbered them and numbered the spots on the floor as well so that I can kind of keep track of what goes where. This one, which is the big one, may be a bigger problem because I can't see it very well. It was actually really hard to get that one done. But anyway, I'm going to cut these out, transfer them to a piece of metal, cut those all out of there, and then start fitting them in place so I make sure they all actually correctly fit and I can get them welded in place. All right, so we have our little pieces. These smaller ones are probably going to need trimming. I didn't bother to go and test fit them because I can trim them very easily in situ. This larger one, you saw me in the vise put the double bend in over here and then put this bend in over here. That's to match the floor ridges. This one was easy. You put it in, you bend it, and then you shift it down and you bend it the other way to get that one. This one, because it has to be bent in multiple dimensions like that, what I did was clamp this upper corner into the vise and then just basically bash the entire thing this way, which stretches it and gives you that more or less the right angle. And I did that over here, and then this little corner here ended up sort of cockeyed the wrong way, so I put that back in the vise and straightened it back out. This didn't cut as straight as I'd like, but that's okay, I can make that work. Drilled all the holes for the plug welds, and then this one over here is also bent to fit up into the shape of the ridges on the floor. So yeah, what I think I'm going to do is, actually, you know what, I think I'm just going to use primer. I think I'm just going to shoot this with weld through primer, because where they meet doesn't matter. The inside of the rail doesn't really matter. It's just the outside where it's exposed to the elements, which is where these were resting from, and that's going to get treated with proper paint. That's going to get seam sealed, and that's going to get undercoated or truck bed lined. So I think I can just do these by spraying both sides with, or the underside of all of them with weld through primer, and spraying the parts of the truck as well, and then just going from there. So I'm going to do that. Then that's going to have to wait and dry. And then once that's dry, I can weld them all in place. So I think I'm going to pick it up with them painted and me starting to weld them in, because you don't need to watch paint dry. All right, so I've got all these primed. Ignore the ones with the weird marks I may have set on them. And then I've got these all similarly sprayed and primed. So now it's basically just a matter of like, okay, here's number one. Put number one in place. Decide if I'm going to do any trimming. or if I'm happy enough with its shape, because again, these don't have to be perfect because they're not going to show, and then weld them in. So I'm going to put you on time lapse and I'm going to buzz my way through all that. Got these all welded up. They all came out pretty decent. I kept having a consistent problem basically along the line here of where the spot welded frame rail is. Here and here I consistently had oxygen penetration into my welds because of the bit of surface rust and whatnot that's in there, because I couldn't get the rust that's just under that lip. So those welds aren't great, but since they don't have to be structural, it's not a huge deal. Got that one, got this one. I did a very quick grind, just mostly to get anything that was sticking up on these rails off. I'm not too worried about the stuff in the rails. I just, I don't want any huge points, obviously, but that's not going to be something somebody's going to be interacting with. So I'm not going to waste a lot of time getting them all perfect. Got that one in there. That one went really nicely and easily. And then over here, we got this one, and I'm just going to fill these with seam sealer. And then I've got this one welded in, and I had to weld up 2 of the holes from the screws I used for the temporary patch over here. There are some other screw holes, but they're in under this seam sealer goo, so I'm just going to get them from underneath. And then Big Ugly over here. This one was a pain to get in here, but it came out pretty decently all total. Big patch goes like this, and up you can see. And I managed to do a decent job of matching this here and his here. They're not perfect, If I was trying to hide this, like if this is a truck bed, I would have done a better job, but this is good enough for this to look decent. I had to go back and fill a couple holes over here that showed up when I was grinding. But yeah, this is all now done. So what I'm going to do is clean these up with a little bit of acetone or lacquer thinner or something, whatever. Go in and have dinner and let that dry, and then I'm going to come out here and put a coat of paint on them. And the same thing underneath, I'm going to put a coat of paint on them so that I can call these done. I'm not going to bother with filming me painting them. It's just paint. So that now means all the rust in the floor is dealt with, which means that pretty much all the rust in the van is dealt with. That it is a problem. I still got the back of one wheel well, and there's some stuff under the back here, like underneath, that I need to eventually deal with. But with these, all the holes into the passenger compartment are officially done, even though only one of these was actually a hole into the passenger compartment. The rest were just sort of bulges. But I'm glad to get those dealt with. I feel better now. I can finish the floor in here. So that's going to be probably the next video, is going to be me getting the floor as done as I can in here so that I can check that project off. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. I'll talk to you all later, and good night.